All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast, hosted by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network. Once again, coming at you live from the YouTube channel. I'm Bo, here with Brant. Last week, Brant, we got together and we were able to put out our quarterback rankings. And shockingly, to the surprise of both of us, we were able to get three of them consensusly ranked pretty early, put our head together, come up with some projections. I know those are circulating the page. I think we've gotten a couple of them out, and then maybe another one tomorrow. But that's circulating the page from you and I last week on last week's episode. It was a lot of fun. I'm ready to get into the running backs in a few weeks' time, but definitely enjoyed the quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed getting them quarterbacks out. It's good to see them circulating on the page, and it was really shocking how close we really were with some of our rankings, and all the way down through 12. I think we only had three total. Outside and mixed up a little bit. Other than that, we were pretty close with rankings. So it'll be fun. I know we're gonna have to sit down and get our consensus one typed up and get that over to our page eventually. And yeah, I'm ready to dive into these running backs and wide receivers. And you said just for a quick heads up, it's gonna be a little different. I believe you said you're gonna take a few conferences. I'm going to take a few divisions, and we're going to divvy them up, and we're going to get our consensus one out rather than our top one. So that will be our consensus show coming up, hopefully.
Yeah, so we'll definitely get that done. Shouldn't take us too long with us splitting it up a little bit. The only thing we may have to do is if you and I want to butt heads on a couple of them, we may have to do a couple independent to check each other potentially, but definitely looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to today's episode, Brant. We're going to go through some dynasty buys, some guys that we're excited for in dynasty leagues. Coming at you next week with a dynasty sells episode. I want to say this now at the beginning of the show, and then I'll bring it up again towards the end. Next week's going to look a little different for the Fatboyz. This half of the Fatboyz will be going down water slides at the Wisconsin Dells. Hopefully. Well, I was going to say, hopefully the resort has really good insurance because they may have to do some repairs and things. But, we'll see. National Geographic may get called beached whale. Never seen it before at a Wisconsin Dells water park. But here we go. We're going to put that to the test. So anyway, I won't be near my computer next Monday. So we're going to try to put one out this Saturday. So that'll be our sales episode that we do this Saturday. So be looking forward to that. Again, we'll hit that again at the end of the show, but just wanted you guys to all be aware of that.
Absolutely.
All right, Brant, you ready to put the bib on and let's get after it?
That sounds good. Let's eat.
I always love when I see you coming in on the corner of the screen with your high kick, Brant. I get a chuckle every time I see that picture come across.
One of these days, everyone's going to see me bobbing my head to this, man. I absolutely love that intro music, man. I'm always sitting here getting my double chins, triple chins, and all my rolls getting a bouncing.
So this is a buy episode, Brant, but I do not buy the fact that you could get your leg that high. I just don't think it's happening.
Well, maybe one day I'll test it on this.
Your pants and gravity would say no, sir. All right, so let's get into these buys, Brant. Obviously, we talked a little bit about them, but I think we're kind of in agreement with each other on these guys being buys. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to kick us off here real quick. I'm going to start with a 23-year-old running back out of the way of Cam Akers. Had some injury issues. Obviously, he's only played in 28 games over his 3-year career. But let's be honest, the Los Angeles Rams were an absolute dumpster fire of a team last year. If Stafford and Kupp find a way to be healthy, there's no way the Rams can be that bad again, which should help Cam Akers a little bit. In 15 games played last year, he had 188 carries, 786 yards, 7 touchdowns to go along with 13 receptions and 117 yards. Now, if you remember right, Brant, he didn't really have too big of a role to start the season. He got going towards the end of it. There was that whole talk about him being cut for a little while, and Sean McVay just was like, no, I can't let this player go. They went and had a meeting. They were able to put their heads together, came back, and he looked great that second half of the season. Matter of fact, that last 4 weeks of the season, I think he was like top 10 running back finishes those weeks overall. So, if he's able to put that together, and I know we've heard for years, year after year since he's came into the league from Florida State, that he's going to break out. He's going to be the guy in LA. And we're still really waiting on it, but it's going to be this year. It's never going to happen. And right now, Brent, I still think he's cheap enough based on his injury history and the, I guess, lack of elite production that he's put up. So let me ask you here, Brant, because this is a very fair, comparable trade. Tell me which side of this trade you'd rather have: Cam Akers, all right, or Mike Evans and Tank Bigsby in a dynasty.
I'm taking the Cam Akers side. He's still young. They did absolutely nothing this draft to add to his backfield. I think they added Evans in the 6th round, so that really doesn't scare me too much. Which means tells me they believe in him. They believe that he is the guy. His injury history isn't scaring me too much. He catches the ball well. Like you said, he was very explosive when he is on the field. So I'm going to take the Cam Akers side of that trade.
Okay. Yep. I agree. All right, Brant, take me through your first guy.
My first guy is more of a 1-year rental in Dynasty. If you trade for this man, you're getting a 28-year-old back, so you're probably stuck with him the rest of his career. Another one that has injury history, but the team did nothing to add to competition in his backfield. And that's James Conner, and he's so cheap because of his injury history. You're going out and you're getting a guy that's had, 1, 2, 3 years already. He's been in the RB2 range in PPR. Last year he finished number 19 in PPR. He had 183 rushes for 782 yards, 7 touchdowns in 13 games in Arizona. Well, he's coming out. Kyler Murray's going to miss some time. They got rid of Hopkins. What they have nothing behind him in the backfield. The focal point of that offense rushing game to start the season is going to be James Conner. And a lot of people are shying away from him. I think it's Keontae Ingram is the only thing sitting there behind him that really might take away. But this is another guy, he was targeted 58 times last year as well. And there's talks that it may be an undrafted rookie starting the season or Colt McCoy. Well, that's a lot of dump down routes to James Conner. So as long as he stays healthy, this man's going to produce at an RB3, RB2 level. And for as cheap as you could probably get him out there, I mean, some of the names in the trade calculator that are roughly around him is you can go give up Stafford for him in a super flex. Well, that's an old QB if you're sitting with Stafford on the bench. A late second round pick in this draft is another thing that's sitting there right around his range. Well, there's not a whole lot that intrigues me in this draft in the late second round. So if I'm a competing team and I'm sitting there and I just coming off a championship year, this is a guy that I'm a competing year. This is a guy that I'm going after to rent. So let me ask you this one of the trades that I mapped out with this one here was James Conner, or do you want Elijah Mitchell in a 4th?
Was that Elijah Moore in a 4th?
Mitchell.
Oh, Elijah Mitchell. Okay. So would I rather have a starting running back, even if it's just for a 1-year rental potentially, or a guy who's never going to start over CMC? Man, that 4th round pick is just, that's a needle mover too, because the talent in the 4th round's super great. If you're not happy with it in second, come back for the 4th. It's going to be even better, right? Yeah. No, obviously I'm going to take the starting production, even if it may be for half of a season, or however long it may be, where I'm getting through bye weeks. being able to use him. I'm going to take the James Conner side in that deal. Listen, you could bump it up to a 3rd round draft pick. And I still don't think I consider that trade on the other end of it. I'd much rather be on the James Conner side. Now, the one difference to that is, Brant, if I'm in a complete rebuild and I'm not contending, then obviously you don't want James Conner. You're not even listening to this segment of the podcast because he doesn't make sense for your team.
If I'm rebuilding and I have Conner on my team, I'm trying to go after a 2nd round pick to go get that younger guy to help my rebuild, or anything else that maybe. I know another name around the rough trade value there was Gabe Davis. So another young guy, but you're still not sure what it's worth. But I mean, those are the type of names that were around there. And like I said, if I'm in a rebuild, I'm shipping him for a 2nd round. But if I'm contending, I'm shipping my later round picks for this guy, because I think he sits in the RB2 category by the end of the year.
Okay. So you brought up a 1-year rental. I'm going to bring up a guy that's got a 1-year leash as well. And this 1-year window is slightly different, Brant, because I think there's about a 1-year window left. It's probably half of a window at this point left to try to buy this guy before he gets that elite wide receiver status where you can't acquire him anymore. I'm talking about Garrett Wilson. And he is on the cusp. I know it was 1 year, but Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, after their rookie years, were pretty much untradeable. This guy's on the cusp of being in that category already. I think he's a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty startup formats as it sits. And his quarterback play is getting upgraded. I mean, just, even Aaron Rodgers at this point is better than Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco. What was the other one that we had for a while? Excuse me, one of Zach Wilson's mom's friends. Whoever was throwing the ball in a New York Jets uniform last year is not going to be doing it as well as Aaron Rodgers will this year. Last season, he finished with 17 games played, 147 targets, 83 receptions, 1,103 yards to go along with 4 touchdowns. This guy is going to have a positive touchdown regression this year. He's going to catch somewhere near, I would assume, 8 touchdowns, give or take. I think his yardage goes up. His targets, I think his targets stay roughly the same, and I think his receptions go up. This is a guy that I just absolutely think is going to go through the roof and become a player that you just very soon can't trade for. So if you want to own this guy, I'm about to tell you the price of it. But this may be your last chance. All right, Brant, I've got 2 for you here. Patrick says, do not besmirch Mike White. You're right. It was Mike White. I forgot. He was probably the one who looked the best out of all of them last year, second to Zach Wilson's mom's friend. But nonetheless. So Brant, I got 2 because I think one of these is going to be really hard for you not to take the other side on. So I'm going to try to steer you a different way to start with. So, all right. So would you rather have Garrett Wilson, all right, 22 years of age, or his teammate Breece Hall?
Wow. We're in a wide receiver era now. We're in that time where the wide receivers are scoring more points. I think I'm going to stick it out with Garrett Wilson. I think I'm going to hang on to the wideout, and I'm going to shy away from the Breece Hall. Give me Garrett Wilson. I think you have better longer health, and longer time with your wideouts. Give me Garrett Wilson in that one.
Yeah, one of these 2 players is not coming off of a season-ending knee injury either.
Right.
I kind of thought that one would be close for you. This is the one that I think is going to be really close, and I think I know where you're going here. So, would you rather have Garrett Wilson or Kenneth Walker and Calvin Ridley?
I got to go with Wilson. I don't trust Kenneth. Okay. We talked about this the other day. I don't completely entirely trust that Seattle backfield. I know what they like to do. I know they like to have a horse, so I can't trust Kenneth. And Calvin Ridley, he's a year and a half away from football. I think he's going to be great in Jacksonville. I think I'm going to take the rookie. The younger guy there. I think I'm going to stick with Wilson. That one's a little tougher too.
You were not alone in your feelings here. As you can see, Jumbo said he would take Wilson just for longevity at a potentially elite level. And yeah, it's hard when you're talking in, because let's be honest, Brent, regardless of which side of that, especially that last one, the Brees Hall one, it's still tough too. But the Kenneth Walker and Calvin Ridley, could you imagine giving up that much just to have a chance at a guy like Garrett Wilson? And again, Garrett Wilson's a lot of fun. Garrett Wilson's really good, but you're giving up a lot too. And it just these are the kind of trades that just they make fantasy football fun, especially existing in a dynasty league, because you can say, "Yeah, I got Garrett Wilson," but what did it cost you, right? It's like Thanos throwing Gamora to get the Soul Stone. You know, it cost him a lot, but he had to do it, right? Little Marvel reference coming at you on this Monday evening.
There you go. Yeah, Garrett Wilson's a guy that's definitely going to be hard to acquire, but if you can acquire, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think here shortly we're talking about him being a top 5 startup and then at a top 4 or 5 wide receiver in any drafts. This is another guy. So I'm gonna go over to my other guy here, and it's excuse me, he's 25 years old. A lot of people were extremely down on him last year, but he still finished as the number 14th back in most PPR leagues, depending on your scoring a little bit. And that is Najee Harris. A lot of people were actually down on him last year because he was so up and down last year. It seemed like he had 10 total touchdowns. He had 272 attempts, 1,038 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and another 53 targets and 41 catches for 3 touchdowns. So Najee had a very decent year last year, but where he was drafted, I mean, people were talking about him being the 101 or the 102 in dynasty startups coming out of college or even after his rookie year, seeing 300 touches. So now people are down on him because he didn't live up to that hype. Well, how hard is it, first off, to live up to the hype of being in the 101 and the 102? You have to finish in first or second, and regardless of who you draft, you're not going to finish in first or second every single year. So this is a guy that you probably can go out. I'm not going to say it's going to be cheap, but this is a guy that I expect elite production out of. I expect it to be a little more even this year with his production. They did nothing. They added nothing behind him in the backfield, so it's still Warren there in the backfield, which didn't eat too much into his carries. Najee was dealing with an ab and I believe an ankle injury almost all year last year, so that's why he was a little inconsistent. And the Steelers went out and drafted an offensive tackle, I believe, and added 2 guards in free agency. So they're boosting that line to really help it out. So Najee here, like I say, he's 25 years old. He's seen over 250 touches each year. I expect this guy to have a great year coming back out. So Najee here, I have Austin Eckler and Najee Harris. Who are you taking going forward? That was the first one I had for this.
So I want to, before I answer that, I want to say this too about Najee. The passing game in Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett should be better this year. So you should see better running lanes for Najee too with an improved offensive line. Oh man, Eckler is one of those dudes that could finish as RB1 every year. I'm still going to lean Najee just because of age at this point, just because he's going to be more of a focal point in his team's offense. Whereas with, the Chargers, it could be a Keenan Allen game. It could be a Mike Williams game. It could be a Quentin Johnston game. But more often than not in Pittsburgh, you're still going to see it be a Najee game. I think the volume's there. I don't know if the production will be as good on the volume, but I'd take Najee over Eckler just in the slightest nod at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I'm taking the 3 years younger, or 3 years younger there, and knowing that the volume should be consistent. We know that Pittsburgh loves to pound that ball, so I'm going to take Najee. So the big one here was Dalvin Cook or mid or a second round draft pick. I didn't have mid. I just wrote second. I'm going to say early second round. So Cook and a second round pick or Najee Harris. It's a second round of this year.
So the second round that I really am not a huge fan of as far as for dynasty aspects, and a running back, a later aged running back that's about to be homeless. as far as NFL teams project. Let me go ahead and get Najee on that one too.
Yeah. I bring that one up just because Cook did finish, inside the top 10. What was it, the last 2 or 3 years? If he stays in Minnesota, which I'm not expecting him to, odds are he's going to still see that production. And wherever he ends up, there's a good chance that he does see the production. But yeah, I think I'm leaning Najee. I have big hopes for Najee. I think Najee really bounces back this year and finishes inside the top 5 this year. I'm anxious to actually do my projections on Najee. That's the one I'm really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, I'm definitely, as a Najee owner, looking for him to have a huge bounce back. Definitely a guy I believe in to come out and still be a top 10 running back. So we'll see what it takes to get him there this year. All right, Brant, I came at you with a big bopper in my last one. I'm coming at you with a tiny bopper in this one. All right, this is one that doesn't move the needle a whole lot. It's kind of a future investment. This cat is the same age as Garrett Wilson, but has a year more experience under his belt. This is Rondale Moore from the Arizona Cardinals. Only played 8 games last year, so he missed some time due to injury. Obviously going to be starting this year without Kyler Murray, who projects to come back about some way through the midway point of the season. But last year he had 56 targets, 41 receptions, 414 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, obviously, D-Hop's gone. I would assume that Trey McBride takes a step forward somewhere in that tight end room. Zach Ertz is going to be back on the field at some point this year as well. And Marquise Hollywood Brown is obviously going to be the number 1 wide receiver there at some point. We saw guys like Greg Dortch have an impact on this team last year. First of all, before I get into the trades, are you interested in Rondale Moore at all, Brant, or not so much?
I'm interested in him because of his age. He's young and his athletic ability, but that team really scares me outside of, like I said, I talked about just a minute ago with Connor. That team really scares me. So it would have to be an intriguing trade offer for me to actually take probably the Rondale Moore side.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can intrigue you. I got 2 of these here. So this one I think is a slam dunk for me. I'm not so sure about the other one. Who would you rather own, Rondale Moore or Chase Claypool?
I'll take Rondale Moore. I don't trust. I know this hurts me. This hurts my soul a little bit with Claypool being a Notre Dame grad, but I don't trust him. I think the Bears have already said they don't trust him either by going out and getting DJ Moore, then drafting Tyler Scott. I think the Bears have said they don't trust Claypool either.
The Bears basically gave up a first-round draft pick to get him. Are you sure they don't like him?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. This one I think is going to be a little closer. This one's going to be a little closer. I think this one may make you have a little bit longer to think about. But the league leader in rushing touchdowns last year, Jamal Williams, now behind Alvin Kamara on the depth chart in New Orleans, or Rondale Moore.
Dynasty aspects, I think I lean Rondale there. I just don't know about how much more Jamal has, and I don't see I know we talked about this a little while back when we talked about our digressions for this year, and we said Jamal. So I think I'm going to lean Rondale on that one, but that one's actually pretty close because Williams could have extreme upside if something falls out with Kamara.
Absolutely. And again, if you make this trade today and Alvin Kamara comes across that he gets an 8-game suspension, obviously then you would much rather prefer the Jamal Williams side of this trade.
You look like a mad genius.
Absolutely. But again, I just think that at his age, Kyler's still going to be in town for a while, and unless he decides he really wants to go play baseball, I don't necessarily see that happening. The Arizona Cardinals pay him way too much to play Call of Duty. I don't think he's going to go to a baseball team. Be busy for 162 games a year. That's just not his style.
There's too many double XP weekends for him to be accidentally playing double headers on a Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I do think Rondale Moore's a buy low candidate out of all the guys I've had so far, Brant. But on to your third.
with Rondale Moore, I really feel like it's giving up age to get youth, and that's a great thing in Dynasty to do. So my next guy, I'm going to save my favorite one for last. My favorite guy, I talked about him a lot last year. I'm going to save that one for last. But I'm going to go with this one. I had to do a little switching up after some reports came out earlier today. So this one's a little deeper in my pocket. I didn't want to talk about two guys on the same team, but I'm going to. And this is Deontay Johnson, 26 years old, playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 147 targets, 86 receptions, 882 yards, and 10.26 yards per catch last year, and finished as the wide receiver 30. Well, I don't know if you missed it or not, but there was one thing that I didn't say he had. He had 0 touchdowns. In his previous 3 years, he had 8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, and 5 touchdowns. So you average that out for 4 seasons. He averages 5 touchdowns a year, but he had 0 last year with a young quarterback. This is a guy that really intrigues me, and I think a lot of people are going to be down on him. There's no way he finishes the year with zero touchdowns again. I just don't see that happen. This offense is on the uptick. They're really starting to get it all put together. He's going to get a full off season with workouts with Kenny Pickett. He had a half a year with Kenny Pickett last year. He did play in all 17 games. Knock on wood, he's only missed 3 games in his entire NFL career. So absolutely, he's going to be on the field. It looks like he doesn't really have too much injury history. So the biggest thing with this, and like I said, I had to do this a little late, so my trade offer may not be quite 100% the greatest. We're going to go with Jacoby Myers and Brandon Cooks or Deontay Johnson. Which side of that?
Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson. Not particularly close. I mean, you're talking guy who, the George Pickens is a thing, but I still think Deontay Johnson's the number one, and that wide receiver core there in Pittsburgh. Again, I do think Kenny Pickett takes a step forward, so Deontay Johnson should do that with him. I'd much rather have Deontay Johnson than those two.
Yeah, I'm on this train. I was trying to avoid talking, like I said, about 2 players on the same team, but Johnson is a guy that's going to, I think, have a really good really good year this year with Kenny Pickett and really help that offense out.
Listen, you almost said it yourself. Let's talk about it for a split second. Positive regression, it just sounds silly. I don't know why that's a thing in the fantasy industry, but people like to talk about positive regression, also known as a progression, right? We're just progressing. We're not backing up to go forward. I don't know, but that's the way it's always been referred in the fantasy industry. I said it a minute ago myself. I know you went to. It's a progression. It's what it is, folks. We can call it that. You can call it a positive regression too. I'm fine with it either way, but it's just weird to me that the fantasy community is like adopting and adapting to these things. But nonetheless, I do think Deontay Johnson may be one of the best ones on this show because I think folks are going to be able to get him for a reasonable price, honestly, just because of that 0 touchdowns last year. That somebody who's not, eating, sleeping, and breathing fantasy football this time of the year may not be looking at. So the touchdown progression should be good for him next year. If he has one, it's a progression. So I like Deontay Johnson quite a bit, Brian. I think you hit the nail on the head with him. I'm going to get into my last one here, and this last one we kind of similarly talked about his part of why he could be such a good dynasty and his price is teeter-tottering on, is it too high or is it too low right now? Okay, and this is the 24-year-old running back out of the Minnesota Vikings, Alexander Mattison. All right, and this is you got to go back a year for this, but in 2021 he started 4 games where he had over 65% of the snap count in those 4 games. Dalvin Cook obviously missed those games. He averaged running back 1 finishes over that course of 4 games. Now they were staggered, but he had a week with like 3 touchdowns. He had another week with several receptions. It was just a very good 4-game stretch for him, where he was over the 65 games or 65% of the snap in 2021. Last year didn't start as much, but he played more consistently. And now you're getting all those camp rumors about him being a 3-down back, how good he looks as a 3-down back, how excited the Vikings are to see him in that role. And I count myself among them. Out with the old, in with the new. This guy's going to be Dalvin Cook 2.0. They're very similar in play style. They look really similar, at least with a helmet on. They both have those luscious dreads coming out of the back, single-digit numbers. And they have a very similar play style, honestly. So it's really just one torch carrier to the next as far as that goes with that offense. So I'm excited for it, Brant. I think these are kind of where he's valued at now. Obviously, this value shifts once Dalvin Cook leaves. So bear in mind that if you take on the Alexander Mattison side of it, he may just be the premier handcuff in fantasy football here. So I'm going to start you off with the one that I think is pretty one-sided, and then I'll move you into the other one. Would you rather own Alexander Mattison or his divisional opponent in Romeo Doubs?
I'm taking Madison. I'm a huge believer in the Madison hype train. Anywhere I own Cook, I have Madison, and it's going to take a lot to pry me off of him. And well, with my weight here, it takes a lot to pry me out of a chair or off of a lot. I'm taking Madison.
Just a lot of nonstick Pam spray. All right. This one I think is slightly closer potentially. Again, this is with Dalvin Cook in town right now. Alexander Mattison or Cortland Sutton, Brant?
I'm taking Madison because I believe Judy's the guy there in Denver. And I don't know how I still completely about the whole Russ there. Sutton's a great guy to own, but I think I'm going to take Madison. I trust even with him backing up Cook right now, I still trust him and how good he looks and how good he looks with Cook in town. And I can only imagine how well he's going to look whenever he leaves.
Listen, Jumbo's all on board with you. Madison over Dobbs for sure. And then he follows it up with never draft Sutton. So there we go. You've got Jumbo and you in agreement. Jumbo, you might want to check your temperature. It's never great to be on the same page as Brant.
No. As long as we're not talking about Chargers wideouts, it's normally okay.
Very true. Never start the wide receiver for the Chargers that Brant says on Sundays. Those are things we don't do.
Yeah. Oh, I might have to get a shirt or a sign to hold up. Don't really start this guy. So my last guy here is a guy that I was all in on, and I'm still all in on him. I absolutely loved him last year coming into the draft. Asthma thing may have played a little part in it. Being a little overweight going into training camp his rookie year. This is the wide receiver out of Arkansas, plays for the Tennessee Titans, 23 years old. And that's Treylon Burks. I absolutely love this. He's getting an upgrade at quarterback eventually, I assume, this season. His running back there, they can't lean on Derrick Henry forever. They're going to have to put the ball up in the air a little bit more, I think. Defensive side, they're getting older. They're not stopping anyone as much anymore. That division is doing nothing but getting better, kind of. You got the Colts, who got an upgrade at quarterback, and they already had a top line, a young running back. So their offense is on the upswing. We have talked about it so many times on how much we believe in Jacksonville. So food is fun. Hang on. Don't sidetrack me, Patrick, here. Don't we talk about food sidetracking me here. So, but Treylon Burks is one of my favorite guys. I drafted him in a couple of our leagues last year, and I'm not coming off him for anything. So right now, do you take a late first-round draft pick in this year's draft or Treylon Burks? That's my first offer there.
Oh man, I wish you'd have put names with this, because if it's Dalton Kincaid, if I can get Dalton Kincaid in the back half of the first, that would.
I didn't want to put a name. That's why, because if I put a rookie, it's like, oh, but so I was like, I'm just going to use the draft pick.
So the pick could be Dalton Kincaid, or it could be, Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers, who I'm not nearly as high on, or potentially Michael Mayer or Zach Charbonnet.
So do you take the risk, or do you hold on to the guy you believe, or a guy that you might believe is on the uptick?
Well, Brant, first of all, let me say I own multiple shares of Treylon Burks as well at this point. So I am a believer. You were on him way sooner than I was. Maybe you didn't know his name
in college.
2 years prior to the draft. Couldn't remember it. You couldn't remember his name, but that's no shocker with you. But yeah, I think Burks, again, at some point that offense has got to pass. Like you said, Patrick is hoping not too much when they play the Colts, but they're going to have to pass at some point. And I'd prefer to have Burks over the unknown. Again, if I knew it was Dalton Kincaid, I'd be damn tempted by that one. But I think not knowing that or not being able to guarantee Dalton Kincaid late in the first, I think I'd obviously stay with Treylon Burks.
Yep, I'm staying with Burks. I like him better than almost every receiver in this class, but maybe two of them. And it may just be, a homer feel on why I like him so much less than JSN. But I love JSN now that he's a Seahawk. You can't hate me on that one. Fantasy wise, still not completely sold on it. But yeah, I'm taking Burks on that one. So here's mine. This one's mine. Do you take Old Reliable? And I do say Old Reliable. He's had over 1,000 yards the last few years. And Tyler Lockett and a draft pick in 2025. Because you know how good that second-round draft pick in 2025. We've already looked into this class. So we know that the class in 2025 is going to be a little bit better than 2024. 2024. Not 5.
Okay.
I don't know why I said 5. But yeah, 2024 second. We've looked into this draft class a little bit, so we do have a little more insight. So do you take the 2024 second and Old Reliable Tyler Lockett, or do you take Treylon Burks?
Yeah, I do think I actually, for the first time tonight, Brand, I think I'm going to take the package you're offering me over the player, just simply due to the fact that I know in Seattle they're going to put the ball up plenty. Tyler Lockett's going to be okay this year. Next year, maybe not so much, but this year he should be okay. And that draft class next year could be pretty nice. And again, I think I'm getting better production this year out of Tyler Lockett than I potentially will out of Treylon Burks, just because I don't know how much the Titans throw, and I do know what I'm getting for the most part with Seattle. But I will also say it in that own right to that, now that I'm talking to myself and I'm hearing myself say this out loud, I don't believe in Geno Smith the same way you do. I don't know if I believe what I saw last year. So I think this is one I would actually go back and forth on a couple of times. This may be one that I sit so long that whoever sends it to me may pull it, regardless of which side I'm getting. Just because that is close. I think I lean the Tyler Lockett in the pick side, but it's really close for me.
Okay. I actually lean the package deal on that one because I do know how reliable Tyler Lockett can be, and I do know a little bit about the upcoming class, and I think I actually do lean a little bit on the package side on that one. But like you said, that's probably one of the closest packages to really look over that we've came up with today. And so that one would be a back and forth one, but I think I actually lean the Lockett side.
It's insane how often you and I agreed to things on this bye episode, and we're in 27 leagues together, and it's very hard for you and I to get a trade done. A lot of back and forth, a lot of talking, just because we know how similarly our thought processes are on these guys here. So, Brant, it was a fun episode. I think the sells may be a little bit more confrontational. Excuse me, words are tough. We'll see if we agree as much on the sells, because I know we've got some different opinions on some guys that'll probably be coming up in this episode. We'll see what happens there.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that one. That one there is going to be. I think we're going to butt heads a few times when some of the names come out. I tried to keep most of my sell names away from any of these trade packages. I did give a little foreshadowing with one of them. You'll find that out next week. Or Saturday.
Saturday. Yep. Jumbo just asked it. I was going to bring it up here in a few minutes. What time Saturday? So it'll probably be similar time-wise. Brant and I both have pools. We've talked about how tan fat looks better than pale fat. It'll depend on what we have going on, but usually
red fat. I had to blend the shirt with the face.
We were outside all day yesterday for a Dynasty startup draft, but no, we will try to do somewhere in the evening. I assume Saturday. We will see, but sometime in the evening would be my guess is when this gets put out Saturday. That will be our sell episode. Should be another short one like this.
Absolutely. We're going to shoot for later in the evening. I do work until 3, so I can guarantee it will be after 4 o'clock at least.
I'm on vacation. No work for this guy.
Yeah, I just had that a few weeks ago.
All right. So, Brant, if you want to start us off with the
As always, stay hungry
and stay fat, my friends.